U.S. Customs. China sent millions of fake masks during pandemic. On February 3, 2021, the U.S. Customs and Border Protection, CBP, released the CBP Trade and Travel Report 2020. According to the report, China accounted for about 51% of counterfeit or substandard COVID-19 related products seized by U.S. customs officials from October 2019 to September 30, 2020. Among the products seized by U.S. customs officials were over 12.7 million counterfeit masks and over 177,000 COVID-19 test kits prohibited by the U.S. Food and Drug Administration. On September 10, 2020, customs officials in Chicago stopped a shipment from Shenzhen, China, containing 500,000 counterfeit N95 masks that could be worth about $475,000 if genuine. On December 6, 2020, customs officials in Cincinnati seized 6,080 fake 3M masks in freight from Hong Kong. Later, just before Christmas last year, customs officials in Cincinnati seized 10,080 counterfeit surgical masks in 21 boxes from Shenzhen, China. Labeled as 3M mask model 1860 and made in the USA, these fake 3M masks would be worth over $65,000 if genuine. According to CBP report, U.S. customs officials issued 13 new withhold release orders in 2020 banning the imports of products made with forced labor. Most of the targeted products, including disposable gloves, seafood, and cotton, originated from China. In June 2020, the CBP seized 13 tons of human hair products worth $800,000 suspected to have been made by forced labor in the region of Xinjiang, China. Activists and researchers believe the hair was sourced from Uyghur Muslim inmates detained in the region's vast network of internment camps. On January 13, 2021, the CBP issued a new withhold release order banning all imports of cotton, apparel, textiles, and tomato products from far western China's Xinjiang region. In 2020, CBP officials also seized $1.3 billion worth, a total of 26,503 shipments, with products found to have violated U.S. intellectual property rights, with China being the top source of such seizures. In December 2020, customs officials in Los Angeles seized 3 cargo shipments from China that could be worth over $32 million. The fake products include 1 million knockoff Viagra pills, footwear, belts, purses, and headphones. On December 21, 2020, customs officials at the port of New York/Newark seized counterfeit toys from China that could be worth about $1.3 million. Boycott Google and Facebook. Blank headlines across Canada. Recently, News Media Canada joined forces with newspaper publishers across the country to organize a Disappearing Headlines campaign. The campaign aimed to boycott global technology giants Google and Facebook for taking the majority of advertising revenue. As part of the campaign, on February 4th, Toronto Star, National Post, Toronto Sun, and 100 other newspapers blanked the headlines on their front pages. News Media Canada reported that Facebook and Google are using their monopoly power to scoop up 80% of online advertising revenues and to free ride on the news content produced by hard-working journalists and publishers across Canada. They refuse to pay the media that produces the news content, leaving the traditional newspaper industry facing challenges and even on the verge of bankruptcy. According to the Liberty Times Net, Associate Professor at York University J.C. Shen said in his Facebook post, "It costs money to produce the truth. However, the fact is that Google and Facebook take more than 80% of the advertising revenue, but refuse to pay the media that produces news content. The result is that countless newspapers have gone bankrupt and hundreds of journalists have lost their jobs, while the Silicon Valley-based tech giants continue to reap profits without accountability." Canadian news media outlets have called on the federal government to take action, arguing that the best solution is to follow Australia's lead by passing legislation that would allow newspapers to negotiate fair prices with Google and Facebook for the use of their content and impose large fines if they refuse to cooperate. CCP, Transnational Crackdown on 3.5 million people. On February 4th, U.S. non-governmental organization Freedom House released a new report stating that the Chinese Communist Party, CCP, is conducting the most sophisticated, comprehensive, and global campaign of transnational repression against religious figures, dissidents, and others, affecting 3.5 million people. The new report published by Freedom House is entitled, New Report, Transnational Repression is a Growing Threat to Global Democracy. The report states, there have been at least 608 cases of direct, physical transnational repression since 2014, including assassinations, abductions, assaults, detentions, and unlawful deportations. And the targets of the CCP's attacks have expanded from Uyghurs, Tibetans, and Falun Gong practitioners in the past to Inner Mongolians and Hong Kongers. The report also says, the harshest forms of direct transnational repression from Chinese agents, espionage, cyber attacks, threats, and physical assaults emerge primarily from the CCP's domestic security and military apparatus. Agencies like the Ministry of State Security, MSS, the Ministry of Public Security, MPS, and the People's Liberation Army, PLA. The report noted that human rights activists, dissidents, and their families were subjected to violence and intimidation by the authoritarian regime within the country. While they had hoped to escape by fleeing abroad, the reality was that they were facing this pattern of violence and intimidation around the world. The transnational repression is rapidly growing, with a significant increase in attack techniques. According to the report, the CCP's aggressive extraterritorial policies extend even in some cases to people of Chinese origin but of other nationalities. One of the most famous cases was Gui Minhai, a Swedish-born Chinese bookseller who was kidnapped and brought to China in October 2015 for selling books about Xi Jinping in Hong Kong. Gui Minhai's case makes us wonder whether the state sees itself as the governor of ethnic Chinese people wherever they may be, rather than a state constrained by international law and diplomatic protocol, the report stated. Freedom House, which was placed on the CCP's sanctions list in 2019 for exposing the CCP's record of human rights abuses, has never stopped marking China as a major target of its own observations.